some cell phone issues with T-Mobile. You know how T-Mobile is. If you don't know, you better ask somebody. So T-Mobile ain't about nothing, but anyway, just thought I'd kind of put that out there though. But I am here, um, live and in color, and just doing this thing real quick. So see if somebody comes through. You know, um, you know, see if anybody want to come through, want to chop it up. See how you're feeling, how you're doing. It's a lot going on to explore. I did do the video today. It's coming out in a few hours. And let me get my notes out because I have to do this so I can address it. I did the Eric Mays video. You know, people who don't understand about Flint, better ask somebody. Um, you know, a lot of stuff goes on that don't get talked about. So there's a lot of stuff that, going on. I'm trying to get my pen straight. I have my pen here somewhere. I'm gonna go find it. But anyway, um, just touching base on a lot of things. Um, I might not get too many people tonight because again, it was a heavy night last night. Had a big old fair of people came through. It's great conversations. So I understand. I understand last night was quite, I caught some basketball. I caught some of that Jokic against Golden State. And tell you something. That I'm gonna tell you like this. I think Steph Curry would have a chance against most other people, but everything that Jokic and them are doing now, um, you know, they're the new Golden State Warriors. I watched them whip that ball to Michael Porter Jr. and I watch Gordon and I watch Jokic and Murray, and I'm like, that's Golden State. So you know, so I thought, I was like peeping out. Um, it was great. The movement, it and they Golden State Blue lead again, but it's just that this is just a better team. I look at Jokic, I'm like, he's I call him ATM. He's a machine. You know, um, I do believe that if Golden State didn't have to go through that, but that he put another triple double. He tied LeBron last night. I don't think people know. He's tied with LeBron now for career for triple doubles. It's crazy. It's like 10 less seasons. Jokic is a freak. Probably gonna get that MVP. You know, so I'm very impressed by what he does. Said it already. Golden State, I heard there's so Clay is getting interest from the Lakers, the Knicks, the Heat, and somebody else. Not surprising. You know, um, I think he will get some interest, but I don't think he can do much for nobody at this stage. He can score, but he's not gonna, uh, I don't foresee him being, that kind of a player at this stage. He's got to be in the right situation. Would have liked to have seen him probably had this was about 6, 7, 8 years ago. Interesting, you know, you know. you know. So it makes for interesting, you know. Anyway, what else that caught my attention? Um, I touched about Paul Pierce and Dwayne Wade. They need to let that one go. I did that video today. I hate to have to do this every time. There's an agenda against Dwayne Wade. It's got nothing to do with his basketball, you know. So, so you know. Anyway, but just kind of like like I said before, just some thoughts randomly. Just waiting to see if anybody comes through. It's kind of cold outside, depending on where you are. Just see if anybody's gonna hit up real quick. What's up? What's up? Just got on, so feel free to. I got your message about the enemy. Um, God, if I can find my pen. Hold it. I want to do a video about that tomorrow. Gotta find this pen. He had no choice. Nobody else would touch him. What kind of deal was it? Let me know. What kind of deal did he get? What kind of deal did he get? If you know, let me know. I'm curious about what kind of deal he got. Yeah. Well, he ain't Chip Kelly. It's crazy how the brothers get the short end of the stick, ain't it though? But he don't have much choice. I mean, he could go back and maybe Andy Reid will hook him up, but they just trying to lowball him because they don't want to touch him. That's what's up. Hate to say it. It is a slave deal, considering where he's been.
Okay, I found this on the web for considering what he's been. Check it out.
You know. It's just a shame, but that's all as good as gonna be. He can't. You know. That doesn't sound like a promising job for him. But he doesn't really have much choice. You know, he has a lot of people that hate him. They had last year they had a little bit of offense. I mean, they should be able to win 6, 7 games. They should at least get the Fruit of the Loom Bowl, right? Right? They ain't that horrible. I mean, they're not the worst team over there. But I don't really know what to expect next year. It's okay. Don't worry about it right now. We ain't worried about that. We ain't worried about that. We got that chip. I'm not worried about it right now. And I'm not even going to think about that until we get to that point. I'm sure they'll work out the details. I don't really expect to repeat no way. I think that that was like what it was. I thought they had the right time at the right time. You got to remember, they were knocking on the door the past few years, got smashed last year by TCU. So I mean, basically, you win a chip. Nobody's gonna. First of all, what Bama did, what Georgia did, would I like a repeat? Sure, but do I expect it? No, no. I hadn't expected if Harbaugh, maybe if Harbaugh came back, maybe. But since he ain't back, I don't. I think they'll be good though. Can't find this pen. I expect them to be good. I don't expect they gonna fall off, but at the same time, you know, I don't have no expectations. Yeah, you know. I think you need to be more worried. If you're Ohio State fan, you need to be worried uh, because you know y'all the ones that's like been knocking on the door, but y'all can't get. You get two losses, and you keep. I'm not gonna put a lot of stock in it. I'm glad they got it. Yeah, well, I'm not really worried about it right now. I got to see what they're. I got to see what everything plays out. I'm not gonna really put a lot of stock in it at this stage. I was just glad they got the chip, and so I'm gonna just leave it at that for now. You know, they winning a ring is like the equivalent that they'll be in the same conversation with other programs, and that's really about it at this stage. It's not no dynasty per se. You know, just being honest. Because sometimes you can see a program and say they can make a run. I didn't quite see that. I thought they could. Obviously, with Harbaugh, they found a balance, but it took him what 20 years. He got it, so that's all. You know, he just, he real smug. He kind of, I don't know. It's just something about him. He kind of can irritate you, but I can't really. Again, I'm not big on Saban like that, but I respect what he's accomplished, and I'll just leave it at that. Kind of just shrug my shoulders about Nick Saban. So he's not somebody that I really spend a lot of time digesting. He comes across real kind of like antsy, like he kind of double talk. They all do though. Man, that's the one thing. But the thing is that I think that you get the wink and the nod with him, But I'm not really big on him. I mean, again, Don't really have much to say about him. After a while, they all kind of blur in the same way. It's kind of like if you ask me about Debo Sweeney. After a while, them boys kind of look like one head coach. After a while, kind of good old boyish. All shucks, you know. The only thing about Bo is they probably his rep was bigger than what he actually accomplished. But again, you haven't really asked me the college football coach that I would really strike fire with. Because again, it's college football coaches, by and large, if they build a network or they build a team or they're with a successful program, if they have any kind of success, you'd be hard pressed to hold them to the fire. That's just a fact. Uh, College football does protect them. So you'd be hard pressed, especially if they had any kind of success. Well, that's a very touchy subject, as you know. He knew what was going on with certain people's doing certain things. Um, Great coach. I always thought he was in the witness protection program, like old mafioso with them shades and everything. He didn't go out too good. I think he laughed it off. And you never know, he could be running a ring in Penn State. They did call it Penn State. So that he only my biggest knock against him is that he choked a championship. That's it. Other than that, his rah-rah spirit, his attitude, you'd want in a coach. He's real preppy. He gets you spiked. It's just the same. The one thing is the same thing in NFL. He let a ring get away. And that is the ultimate sin. I'm sorry. I mean, if we're talking just strictly on the field, that's the ultimate sin. Not as a college football coach. He sucked as an NFL coach. And we stick to college. He had a great run. Got to put his pimp hand down. But NFL, just like Nick Saban, just saying. So, but as long as we stick to college, he was legit. You know he was. Stay out the NFL and stay out them waitresses' booths. So just saying. Who is your college football pet peeve coach you thinking of? Chip Kelly. All them ones that are kind of like this schemer, dreamer that don't win it all. And that comes to mind. But as far as, again, if you're successful, yeah, he's annoying. Excuse me, he's annoying. But they gonna keep him working. Too long. I miss the old days, if you must know, before you were born. I missed the first round 2 out of 3, a 4 out of 3 out of 5 second round. Too long, too dragged out, too long. Everybody ain't worthy of a 7 game series. That's an old Laker thing when Shaq and Kobe were together, and they let that mess go on. I missed the 2 out of 3. I remember when the Rockets beat the Lakers back in '81. Bill Willoughby with that crazy shot when Magic missed that shot and they beat them in the first round, or when the Nets beat the Sixers after the Sixers won the chip and Buck Williams and them. I missed that. If your butt ain't ready, send your butt home. Not this play-in tournament, not this top all this crap. They too protected. And you know, if you're moving mobile quarterback, you don't get the same calls as a non one. So if you're gonna do it one for all. Cam Newton was the MVP and he got took unnecessary hits. He should have been protected. So I have a problem when they don't, if they're gonna do the whole flag football for one, do it for everyone. But it's soft now. It's soft. Because everybody ain't no 3,000 yard, 4,000 yard passer. Cats be stat padding. They can't make extra points. Um, you know, they make 50, 60 yard field goals, but they make chip extra points. They miss them. How often does that happen? Kansas City got a real one. That guy can kick. But I'm just saying, a lot of these turkeys can't kick. That's what's up. So that they somehow special to be Super Bowl commercials, especially in this day and time. Let's be 100. If you of a certain age, you grew up in social media, you can't really like this big thing with these Super Bowl commercials. That's old. Those commercials should be airing like the night before or something. They're not even a big deal no more. I mean, really? That's where we are now? I don't even really look at them like that. So it's still too white. And also, um, it's too limited. I don't care about it. Racist for too long. Can't do nothing for me. Long winded, boring industry show. And it doesn't mean anything for your career. Let's just get to the chase. If you're making box office bank, do you think Tom Cruise needs to worry about some Oscar? The guy's got a almost 50-year career. Does he need to worry about some statue? Think about it. If I mention Tom Cruise, he's been Hollywood's golden boy since the 80s, okay? Come on now. Come on now. Tom Cruise ain't got to worry about no Oscar. Did the Oscar do anything for Cuba Gooding Jr.'s career? Does it do anything for Denzel Washington's career? Did it stop Eddie Murphy from having multiple sequels? Come on now. Mm-mm. Pretty much. And it was sad for me when Spike Lee jumped in some dude's arms when he got it. I'm like, come on now. Or watching Tyler Perry up there crying and Angela Bassett. I'm like, come on now. It's not that big of a deal. It really ain't. How Will Smith got that award at this, that whole, I mean, if you're worthy of it, I mean, really, it's embarrassing. So I really don't care. And musicians have gotten them too. Did it do anything for your career? Well, so kinda, but it's a situation where it don't mean nothing. It don't mean nothing. I just mentioned Tom Cruise. Did it? He's still making what Mission Impossible Part 88. Is it gonna do anything for him? Not really. I mean, did it make Cuba Gooding Jr. Any bigger? Nope. Did it do anything for Jamie Foxx? Jennifer Hudson? I mean, ask yourself that. Really? So no. Yeah, you're right though. They do be acting some kind of strange way about it. It's too political, and it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's fan vote. I mean, really? I mean, they're not that. The hype is bigger than the games. I don't like no All Star games. If you must know, the hype is bigger. Um, it's always it can be condensed to probably about 10 minutes or so. I think. I don't think it needs to be like 15 plus minutes. It's too corporate, and they always tend to usually get acts that are usually past the pull date. I know Bruno Mars is an exception, Beyonce's extent. Prince did great, but and obviously with Michael, but they usually don't get people the right type for the audience. I know someone's gonna say, well, they had the Weeknd there and Katy Perry, but I think that one of the things is they missed the boat years ago by having the right act sometimes to pull it off. That's one of them. So just that people gonna be drunk and rowdy, and what happened in Kansas City should never happen. So, and it's important that people are acknowledged, but it's the same situation where safety comes first. So it's a lot of chaos. So that turkeys will be standing outside freezing their butt off for that mess, and it's not even memorable. You know, um, it's overrated. In matter of fact, these stores already have deals going on, so it's not like you have to wait for stand out Thursday night and get it. They're already there. They've drawn a lot of unnecessary attention. Babies ain't born yet, so there's no showers. Uh and it's usually a chick thing too. So it's kind of comical because they usually don't have dudes come there, even though they partook and they halfway brought the baby around. But anyway, that's another story, another video. So it's kind of like, okay, a lot of presents, like little gifts, you know. There's little food, little, it's interesting. Oh, it's like you get this new car, you get this uh you get this rent a room party kind of stuff, get blitzed. It's a lot of over the top expenditures. But I guess it's probably the only time in your life where you're going to get to be grown and get treated as such, where you get this larger than life stuff. Because usually they don't do that for when you college graduate parties. High school parties are pretty big to do things. So welcome to adult life. But yet it's very juvenile. A lot of this stuff. Just saying. Uh, so I had a party. There was a party once where, people get loud and they start drinking and they get into things and then they just, sometime if you need a ride back, sometime someone gets inebriated or just say too much. And it gets a bit, or if you're rooting for a team, the team sucks or something happens and you're just really just, it can be fights, it can be different things. If it's done right, it's great. If it ain't done right, it's, you know, say the wrong thing, grab the wrong thing, do the wrong thing. That's it, really. Say the wrong thing, grab the wrong thing, just it's wrong. That's the thing. It's just the brackets. I mean, like sometimes they, like when they have them playing in different places, but can't really got no real complaints because it usually upsets are bound and stuff really falls where it's supposed to. So I can't really knock it. And I can't really knock it. They get bought and paid for. Um, they get bought and paid for. They they are actually allowed to hate, and there's no, the people knowingly know it. Tim Donahoe with Rasheed Wallace, that was knowingly known. David Stern put them to it. Adam Silver puts them to it. When LeBron people start crying about not getting fouls and calls, and they don't ref everybody the same. I saw that play yesterday with LeBron all acting. He should have gotten the technical for it. Um, the, the ones that are legit, the ones that are hyperbole start talking crazy. Like when Reggie Miller's like, this is some of the greatest basketball I've ever seen. And when they start talking about certain things that that ain't true. So they milk it. They be milking it. So that's my main pet peeve. But that goes for NFL commentator. Like people don't want you to they have to like talk a game within the game because it's so bad sometimes they have to make up something to pass the time. But they know if someone's a bum, they just can't say it. They can say they a scrub, they suck. They can't come out and say it. They have to watch how they word it. The best person I know who ever did those kind of things is actually Jim Lampley with boxing. When they do boxing, they found a way to kind of like use words and sentences and phrases, but that they'll come out and say that, hey, we're one of the 300 best players in the world and that they belong on a pro squad. And they'll say it with a straight face too. Well, so funny you say that because I was watching an old video clip. Jimmy Kimmel with Kobe was talking about Adam Morrison, and he was talking about practice, and Phil Jackson was so. Um, Funny you mentioned that. That came on one of my YouTube clips last night. Funny you say that. I will say this: guys do play hard in practice because actually, to be honest with you, that's how they end up on the team. They might not necessarily be game regular, but they have to be practice regular. So he might be a scrub on the regular against someone, but in practice he has to go against the best player to stay on the team. So think about that. So he don't suck like he don't suck where he don't necessarily belong on the court because he has to play for a job, but he don't necessarily make it on the court. So it's a real twisted thing. Yeah. I think that when they, some of them, depends on who we're talking about, talk through the media to talk about a player, uh, how they try to build their rapport with the rest or how they go about stuff, or they are busy trying to, utilize something that they're making light of to substantiate what they're doing. But then in reality, they're just wasting time. But it works, and if it sometimes it works in the first, sometimes it don't. So if you mention some coaches, I can tell you, but I notice that certain things that they do, certain ones do certain things that are real annoying, especially when they don't have big time rotations and they don't really strict profess defense. So I can't stand coaches that are obviously oblivious to, you know, that's one of my pet peeves. Because then it wasted the game and prolongs this, you know. That the popular vote don't really count. That the electoral one, which is chained to slavery, was tied to slavery, which is, the electoral one cares more than the popular vote. So basically, it's saying that if someone wins the big vote, it doesn't matter. That's what Hillary Clinton, she smashed Trump on that. But the electoral one was the one that carried weight. It makes no sense. It's kind of like college football polls where it's the coaches poll and then the writers poll. It's like, come on now, which one is it? So it doesn't make sense the way it turns out. Um, Bougie, and I understand that they were all, from the way around the way project kids, but it got to be real bougie, cosmopolitan, the chic thing. That's what Goody wanted, charm school. So they were very well rehearsed, you know. That was a Motown thing. Wanted you to be polished. And they sold their artists to, yeah, well, I'm not, it's a touchy, it's kind of like, not, how do I say it? When I say bougie, can't say nobody was a Tom, even though some people will tell you that's how Lionel Richie turned out. Some people may feel that way. Some, may look at them how they, but they had a certain style about them on the label that they wanted a black refined imagery. The Supremes had those gowns and the stylings. The Temptations had the suits and the stylings. Um, you know, they had a certain way that they presented their acts. Barry Gordy liked it a certain way. He wasn't what now he wasn't he was he wasn't going to say anything that was going to flip the system. I mean, you remember he thought what's going on by Marvin Gaye should never came out. So you might could lean that way. I'm sure some of Stevie Wonder's stuff that he probably had some issue with. Maybe some things with Rick James and stuff he had issue with. He was more of a pretty conservative approach to music making. I mean, I'm not knocking him because let me tell you something. He is the greatest record man ever. And everybody that was anybody on that label had careers. Okay. We talking 2, 3, 4 decade careers. So Can't never hold nothing against him in that regard. But there was some slickness going on. They got to use the N word, and they got to mainly be vulgar and try to tell same old tired type of cliches about maybe talk about Michael Jackson or talk about something that it's never like uh you never usually get a black comedian that says I grew up in the burbs and I liked it there. I ain't trying to go. I ain't wasn't trying. I went to my aunt's house in the hood, and I wasn't trying to hear no guns and nothing like that. I didn't. My life wasn't like that. That would be funny, but it's usually stereotypical N word and loud and cursing a lot, and not a lot of enlightenment. Not where you really capture their emotion. Just something that that's a pattern that I've noticed a lot. You can be funny if you know how to story tell. You can be funny if you know how to kind of like, balance it out, but there's no balance. So they're making the mass and the plantation very happy with most of the stuff I've seen. That it's the only one that counts. Don't get it twisted. Love your mother, respect your mother, give your mother the star, the moon, the whole nine. But Mother's Day somehow is like seen 3 times more important than Father's Day. And that is a peeve because it's like, you know, the way it's done that can be a turn off if you never really had your mother in your life. You know, just saying. Good question though, and a good one, a good topic. It's too cold. You don't want to do nothing. You want to bundle up, turn the heat on, and stay in and go bird. And for people who don't understand, and I always say it's a soul brother situation. It's tough to get up when it's under 50 degrees. It just really is. It's tough because sometimes people want to eat, they want to drink, they don't want to do nothing. It's tough. And people don't want to go to work. People don't want to do nothing. They really don't. Yeah, you do. You be sitting up there trying to just munchies, and if you're watching football, you're watching movies, you just it's just like hard to kind of like get motivated. That's why when it's cold, I get out and exercise. I do other things to keep myself from, because it's just really lethargic. You're just kind of like in a trance. So it's like, okay, do I sleep more? Do I eat more? What do I do? I have to exercise more. So it's just kind of like, it's really gets really tough. It's really tough. That's true. So yeah, I agree. That sometimes people make it into a controversy. So that white boy that was Dak's backup, he won some games when Dak got hurt, and they acted like that turkey was legit enough to be starting. And I'm like, y'all need to stop with Jeff Garcia, who was a good backup quarterback. Now Nick Foles is an out of body interesting situation. That's not the norm. Nick Foles just fit great in Philly. But if you noticed in Chicago, yeah, Cooper Whack Rush. You notice in Chicago, Jacksonville, but in Philly, he was a great fit. But it's a proof that sometimes the right system, right place. It doesn't really mean much because Frank Reich was backup for the Bills, but he didn't really burn it up elsewhere. So, and Cooper Rush, I ain't no, no, and whatchamacallit for the Ravens, he should be getting a lot of love. He should be getting a lot of love. He should definitely be getting some attention. Hudley, because Hudley can play. I mean, I don't know why anybody ain't throwing no cash to him. I know backing up Lamar. Huntley got an arm. He nice. Tyler Huntley. Yeah, Huntley's nice. I don't know why they don't put nothing on him. I don't know why. Because if he was white, they'd be like 15 teams be trying to get him. He's mobile. He got an arm. But anyway. But yeah, Cooper Rush gets all this attention because Skip Bayless and them be like, ooh, But backup guys can come in and sometimes they get some love, they get hot, but a lot of them are not meant to be starting. It's just very seldom do you get one where you're like, I ain't got none no more because you know why? Because running backs don't last no more. We talking about talking about a running back is like talking about the last time you went to a music store. I mean, think about it. I mean, I know McCaffrey's going, and you got some guys, but really, you can't really find fault no more because they're not around anymore. They're really not like that. It's a dinosaur position now. So it's not the same. It's not the same. I think that some cats are delusional thinking they're better than what they are, or they don't understand the team concept. Now Tyreek is in a unique situation. He got the chip and he can stat pad. However, when you got a goal situation with a quarterback that you in syncopation with, you just don't mess that up. And there ain't but so many quarterbacks that's gonna dominate and get you there. You know, Stephon Diggs has learned it out that because yeah, he's a talented receiver, but it's like, yo, you're not gonna have too many quarterbacks that's gonna get you to that perspective. So the grass ain't always greener. And do you become a rent for hire receiver? I don't know. I think the fact that he could compartmentalize himself as a hitter, that he was more underrated. That if he needed to hit a home run, he would. He tended to make himself. He had the unique ability to get what he needed to get. He make a statement. That's what the great ones do. I would say probably much his outfield glove because the offense is so dangerous, but they forget about his skill set as an outfielder. He was legit. He was legit. He had none. 5 tool. He had none. He was that dude. He was that dude. He was a made man. I mean, they all were made men, but Mays was really, I mean, for center fielders, it's like Wilt Chamberlain, it's like Jim Brown, it's like Joe Lewis, or Jack Johnson. He was in his own league. He was the standard. Um, his versatility, because he played all those positions. He was just scary versatile. He really made himself into doing a little bit of everything. And no one was going to outwork him. He wasn't the most skilled or most talented, but nobody was going to outwork him. So that's why he was Charlie Hustle. I think he was a more underrated hitter because he was a average was tight and he had great hand, he could feel, but his batting skills, he was legit. He was legit. I'm glad you mentioned him because they never mention him when they talk about he was legit. Barry was the truth. His bat came up big time. He was legit. I liked him. I really did dig Larkin. Probably would be as a when if he played the field. But I mean, because his offense again dictated so much that people forget about the other side of him. You know, so that's all I could say about that. His offense was so dominant that you forgot about his fielding work. You know, that's the only thing I would say. You know, uh, underrated with hitting with his power. Sometimes he could, pop some balls. He could hit some. He could definitely get that long ball going. Um, he wasn't just some basic player. He really had some picking. He had some pick and pop. You know, so he doesn't get his due like with that. Robbie was bad. He could hit. Like he could really hit too. If he had to hit for power, if he had to do something, he could make it happen. I'd pretty much say his ability to move. Not saying he was super fast, nothing, but he definitely, he could keep himself. He could hustle in the outfield, base pass. He did what he had to do. He doesn't get his fair due. So that's what I say about Bernie. His wheels were better than he gets credit for. He has some good wheels. Um, I'd say his passing game. His defense was on point. His scoring was on point, but his passing game, he had triple double in that game when he got the MVP in the finals, and he so say 87. His passing game, he doesn't get enough due for as a passer. He could really pass the rock. Because his motion on offense and his defense, but his passing game was nice. I'd pretty much say his mobility. Believe it or not, even though they said he moved, I don't think they understood because he took a lot of shots, but he could move when he had to. He could definitely move when he had to. He definitely made some plays with his wheels. And also I'd say underrated with picking up on defenses. He did a pretty good job. He stand in the pocket. He was tough. He takes shots, and he was a guy that he was tough. Um, Not afraid to go over the middle. Actually, he makes some plays. I'd give him his due. He really wasn't afraid to. Some people somehow he gets labeled as a finesse receiver. He's a pretty tough dude. He go over the middle. You know, I think that he came up with some. He did a lot of that in the Super Bowl against Cincinnati. He just got hurt. He was going to be MVP of that Super Bowl. He got a lot in him. I would probably say his hands to match his leg technique, his ballet style technique. I say his hands, because he really made some incredible catches. He know how to stretch his body. He utilized components so well. He really utilized them. Made some incredible catches, and he just was in tune. He really had worked on fundamentals. You know, I think with the ring and an attitude, his underrated skill to me was how strong he was. Cause like everybody knows he can juke and shake and move, but how he could just, he was strong. Like really, you weren't just gonna hit him and tackle him with just, he was a strong cat. And then long he had wheels and he had shake and bake. So I think that fact that he could, and you weren't gonna tackle him just by patty tapping him. He was stronger than he was too. Obviously he can catch, and there wasn't era he came in, there wasn't as much. But he came around when Thurman Thomas did, you'd have seen it more so. I think the fact that he really knew where he was throwing, he wasn't just because he had velocity and a quick release. He really had time passes. So those passes were pinpoint. Like he really understood accuracy. So his arm strength to match with his timing and his receivers, everything had to be on the line. And that's something that he doesn't get enough credit for. So that's how I look at Marino. He was bad too. He was a bad dude. But I think, yeah, a lot of times with his strength, but he put that ball with such precision. The thing that he actually his underrated skill is that he was able to take guys that you didn't necessarily think could be as versatile, and he got a lot of his players. I would say that. I think he got a lot out of, like I said, Troy Brown. He utilized guys in different positions. He was able to bring them up and utilize them. Bring a Wes Walken up. Uh, you know, um, they complemented what Brady was putting down. So I think that was something right there. Montana's improvising skills. He know how to keep plays going. That's one of the things that made him so clutch is that he could actually look and keep things going. He could move around just like the catch with Dwight Clark. He moved around in the pocket, back and forth, hit that ball to the back of the end zone. That's accuracy, but that's also he know how to keep the play going. He had the unique ability to do that because all these guys aren't able to because they got so much timing. He made stuff happen. And he was accurate too. That's another thing that doesn't get talked about. He was accurate. Not the greatest arm, but his timing and precision was precise. He just, so. Well, before my time, but if I'm going to say anything, I probably say his ability to create a space. Because I mean, if you got to go up against a Will Chamberlain or I'm gonna say Will Bellamy, but I'm gonna say oh God, Nate Thurman. Yeah, you go against some of these big body centers that you're not always privy to see or show, and you're able to create and to make those shots and to be able to be pinpoint. That's pretty impressive because you have to have a certain mind jetta thing to make it work. So, but um, not much as a player, more so as a coach. Because I mean, the guy came from being a six man to one of the 50 greatest players ever. So I'll never find any issue with him with that. Um, I just think as a coach, the whole thing with Harden, Dwight Howard, and all that, and he just really didn't finish it up. And then he wasn't that memorable as a GM in Minnesota, so that was kind of nothing with Moses Malone. Love Moses, because I mean his physicality, his strength. The only thing that worked against him is he just didn't have a lot of what we call the right cast to win in Houston per se. He's missing certain parts. When he went to Philly with Doc and them and Andrew Toney, he won the chip in '83. So he just was a guy that if you put a right pieces right, he would win. So I got nothing bad to say about Moses. Uh Sometimes he gets cutesy. He's shimmying. Sometimes with his passing and certain things. That's my real knock. And my other knocks is him not stepping to Draymond and stuff. You know, but he's a is effective team leader. He is a winner. Um, he is fearless, and he's very competitive. Uh, but you know, if he had to go against Denver every night, he might consider retiring sooner. They're not beating them, and Denver is basically the Golden State of now. That he loud, that he talk more bite. His bite was he was a great stat pattern talent, and he in Minnesota, and he did well in Boston, but he did not get to this level where he should have gotten quite. Yes, he's a great player, and he'll be in the top 75 and all that, but he's not the kind of player that could have been a lot more, and he didn't always bring it like that. Um, he played, he was I'd say the kinda like because of not having a personality worked against him, and I can't recall pet peeve. Have you had? Because he gotta remember, he's between Steph and Reggie Miller, literally. You think about it. And I think the personality not really being the Jesus Shuttleworth character was bigger than his own, because he could play, but he never had a personality that transcended like that. That he's like the link between both those guys. So that's the one thing I could tell you about Ray. So that they did that mess when Shaq played, that they allowed it to go on for, and they knowingly know that guys were doing it. Ginobili used to do it all the time. Like everybody kind of did it. And they know good and well that some of these guys were big and strong and they allowed it. And so it's like, well, if you're going to call a foul under the rim or in the restricted zone, how do you do it? So what made it so happen is that they would just knowingly do it for year in and year out. And it became, you know, contrite. And it's part of the sloppiness that hurt the NBA to this day because they let that go on too long. That everybody was all about this defensive strategy and that they had to play tight ball and lock you up. Um, the games to me needed some more scoring because I was disappointed to be honest with you. I like the '80s far more. That '90s sluggish out 83-78 is all right once in a blue, but that became the norm. And when you had teams, guys that just couldn't even, what they were shooting. um, there's always an agenda by the league to push this particular area that they want push with that. I just don't think teams have. There was a lot of watered down, and that's one of the things that hurt it. The league was very watered down, so they were only like a handful that teams that stuck out. So it was a pet peeve of mine. It was kind of slow. I didn't like it at all. That you think you're going to win, that you think that's all it takes to win. And it's farthest thing from the truth. LeBron James and Kevin Durant have done a disservice because it's not quite like that. You still got to have the IQ, the moxie, and everything to work. When the Pistons beat the Lakers, they went and got Antonio McDyess. That didn't work in their favor. They never recovered, and they didn't win the chip. It's Spurs. You get what you're supposed to get. Boston had all that, got one ring to show for it. Yeah, two finals appearance, one ring of it. Didn't work. Doesn't always mean it's going to be, you know. So, um, it's not there. You gotta do it because you gotta have the cap to get the pieces that you need. And when you don't, you're in a situation where you're desperate. So how do you rotate? And then see, like let's go back to Phoenix with Steve Nash and Amari and them and Sean Marion, shall we? He wants to run a 7-man rotation. So you don't have the bench. And you're depending on 7 man to go deep. And 5 of them, you gotta hope no one gets hurt or nothing. That's a lot of drain. That's a lot of drain. So I think that you got to. That's what made championship teams work. That's why the Lakers were successful, Celtics were, Pistons, Bulls, you know, Popovich with the Spurs. The successful ones, they got it. You have to. Because you got to have a couple of them guys on their bench who are road dogs and guys who can make shots and be important. But you can't be playing this kind of ball where you just limit what you got. So that's important. That's why D'Antoni, even though Kobe called him an offensive genius, how that turn out genius? Um, I think that they try to push their point and don't really want opposition to be there, but want opposition to be there so they can pull what they're saying. And the thing is that there is never a balance in these streets with it. I mean, what are you protesting exactly? And if you're going to protest, can it be argued against or argued for? So it's a real touchy subject. Scream, talk to the screen, and tell you what not to do. They're redoing the movie right there on the spot. Cracks me up. And sometimes you just want to watch the film, but people be talking to the screen and screaming and all scared and you know. And when the movie's over, they act like they don't know you. They get real quiet. It's funny. I've been in there, some black folks in theaters, and they'll talk all through the movie and hoop howl and all that. The movie's over, quiet. Don't hear nothing. So, yeah. But I don't really mess with I didn't really mess with going to a lot of scary movies at the theater, but I've been through experiences with other, way back. That they'll probably say the N word, that they want to get loud and want to fight and act like Ken and Karen. That's the biggest one. Because usually if they go to the wrong place, wrong section, that's what usually happens. And then they usually get their behind beat and get hit with a disorderly charge. Well, not even so much as that, but when you what you're talking about is like they'll get loud and belligerent and then they want to fight and they want to say kinds of stuff that they know they're gonna get their butt knocked out. I haven't really met the mentionary black person they know. I just know that they, what they say about if you can't control your liquor, and they don't really go into that per se. The ones that go into that one is when they're trying to justify their racist ways in terms of being sober, not the drunks. The drunks is different because drunk white folk be fighting and getting loud and doing a whole lot of stuff. Well, yeah, yeah, because they're usually saying it in a derogatory manner. It's not even a slip up, and it's you know, and they get too comfortable with saying stuff where that's what happened. So, but I don't put myself, excuse me, I'll put myself in them kind of situations because I'm not out in places like that. So, but I never had that kind of thing. Oh, that has happened because cats be like, "Can we got a problem? Need to straighten this out." So, and you in the wrong spot and you say the wrong thing, you might get stomped out. So, yeah, that's true. For the most part, I mean, there's some that don't, but for the most part, yeah, it's kind of like you mind your business and you just chilling. You know, don't say nothing, be low key. Like you might talk to somebody in the store. You might be, conversational and stuff. I was walking down the street and just talking to a friend on his phone, and this white woman got clutched from a minute. I'm like, look, ain't nobody want nothing from me. I said, I waved at her. Have a nice night. Don't do that. Don't do that. Put your mind at ease. Don't do that. So I said, ain't nobody want to kidnap you and touch you up no way. I mean, what you doing? Don't do that. Don't do that. I don't like the subtle stereotypes of the clutch purses or the clutch attitude. So, but I tend to kind of, mind my business. Unless someone says something or does something, that's when it gets flipped. I look, I mean, like I notice, but like I'm polite and courteous because I know that I keep it cool, but I stay business-like. I keep my move and I keep my distance. I'm aware. But I'm gonna tell you a story. It's happened with some sisters too, because like sometimes you just be polite and courteous, and they may look at you all strange and snarl up on you. So I keep myself, you know, aware. Period. But when it's more, like, non-black, even more so because again, you got to stay real cool. Well, somebody gonna be stupid enough to buy that joint. Yep. Well, who was it? Wasn't it Malik Bridges? Wasn't Bridges saying some mess about he's gonna wear them at the game or some crap? I could have sworn Mikhail Bridges said some crap like that. I could have sworn I heard that come out his mouth. Oh, they can't wait. 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 Yep. I figured he would. He the same turkey that is fool around beat up on the has some kind of ish. See, that's why I tell you all the time these cats is bought and paid for. That's why I don't like watching. That's another reason why it's tough to watch and deal with these cats now because they shuffle, they embarrassing, and no one tells them nothing. You know, NBA probably allow that too. And I don't care about the NBA. They don't have a Black Lives Matter logos no more. They cut that down, so I don't have anything. Their little token for Black History Month don't mean nothing with everything that's going on. You know, no one has ever called the NBA how they did my do Raul. So, yeah, but that's common in that league for a supposedly predominantly black league and all this player movement and stuff. They very much one dimensional. Yeah, well, yeah. And I ain't never got over it. I never got over it. If you notice, I almost take every chance I get to mention his name, just like I do Kaepernick. Because only because I'm a fan of the sport is the only reason why I haven't boycotted it for life. But believe me, it is in the back of my mind. I'm not going to lie. I don't look at the NFL quite the same as I did. I watch and I observe, but it ain't been the same without Cap. And my dude Raul, he's over on Instagram. He has some great posts with it. He's heck a cool dude, down earth cat. They owe him big time. Told you when they started putting Black Lives Matters on the floors, they should cut him a check. They should have him in some capacity, So I have a problem with that. I'll never feel good about none of them. Everybody know the national anthem is racist too. That they think that somehow if they do extra shuffling that they're gonna get some love, that all of a sudden that they're gonna get rewarded. They're gonna be somehow treated as a special Negro or special Latino. Yeah, because I got to throw everybody in there, special East Indian or something. They got a West Indian. They think they'll somehow get this point for brown nosing and it never happens. None of these plantations care nothing about you. Because you see Nikki Haley, she's a buck dancer. The heck she gonna sit there and say that she didn't take that Confederate because Dylan Roof, and then she said it wasn't racist and all this. I'm like, how deep are you in it? She's one of the worst ever. Changed her name, changed her identity, went all in. No, you're not gonna win. And Trump's not gonna take you in. And he called you by your original government name. That's buck dancing 101, Nikki Haley. That's a buck dancer. I know you'll mention Tim Scott. Yes, he is. But Nikki Haley took it to a whole nother level. Head to toe. Head to toe. You go from looking like an Indian woman to looking like you should be on SUV Law and Order, looking white and pasty. Come on now. And not that charismatic either. Not a charismatic woman. She do look like her. She make me think of her. You know I'm talking about that actress. Being on there with Christopher Murdoch, the actor, and being there with Ice T. She been on there for like 50 years. That's what Nikki Haley looked like. That don't mean nothing. That don't mean nothing. Brother could be sold out and he could be bought. That don't mean nothing. They not sitting up there watching old episodes of Soul Train they ain't doing no Soul Train line. Sarah Palin used to mess with Glenn Rice and all that, and what did it mean? It don't mean nothing. I mean, the massa mess with sisters. I mean, what does it mean? I'm just going. I mean, we go back in time. People like somehow think that, oh, because you did this, what does it mean? Don't mean that you suddenly get righteous to black folks. Yeah, Glenn Rice and Sarah Palin, the mayor of Alaska, who was running for vice president with uh, uh, what's his name out of Arizona before he died, who was the Navy, was a war hero. Yeah, because his daughter was talking about it. But yeah, Sarah Palin and Glenn Rice back in the day. But Glenn is a shuffler though, so don't get excited. He a cornball brother, so she liked brothers. She liked brothers. Let's believe, but yeah, well, because I remember how she was about Richard Pryor, but that's why she's been married for like 80 years. So when her and Elgin Baylor must have been like right when she was getting ready. She likes brothers though. Um, he just always shuffled to me. Well, so they played the Bulls in the 90s. And he had like 8 points, and it was like late in the fourth quarter, and the Bulls was tearing it behind up. And he begged Dave Collins to go back in so he could get his 10 points so he could keep his streak alive. And I thought that was shuffling if there ever was. I said, look, man, Jordan them already sent your butt home. You're here trying to get a measly to keep your little thing going. That's what he did. And that to me was a bucking story because he was like crying because he was held under 10. I'm like, look, your team got blowed out by 20 plus points. That's not going to save your cause. His wife was a lot more spunkier than him, too. Yeah. I'll never forget that game. And I looked at Dave Collins and I'm like, how did you do that? Why? So he just struck me as a corny brother. That's all. But that was bucking to me because they please, master, let me get them 2 points, please, master. You're getting your butt beat by 20 points by Jordan and the Bulls, but you still crying about some 2 points. Again, when you're talking about a lot of these NFL athletes and entertainers, that's going to be quite easy to pick up on. I mean, the ones who aren't are the rare. Jerry Rice was a great player, etc. Made man as an athlete, but yeah, I don't like his commercials, and I don't like how he try hard with certain things. They just kind of come across stale and stiff and bougie. And Ray Allen, he definitely has crossover aspirations. So, but I mean, I don't, I like Ray Allen all right. I like him all right. He just never, the thing that hurt Ray, as I said earlier, he just didn't have no personality. He said, under what would work against Ray is he didn't have no personality. He could play, but he had no personality. He was a better version of Reggie Miller, but yet Reggie hit shots that sold you. Believe it or not, the majority of them, especially the ones that blow up, because you got to think about something. David Stern, when he came in as a commissioner, right, was looking for special Negroes. Like, and when Michael Jordan told Clyde Drexler, you got to play the game, what do you think he meant? So think about it, you know. So most of them who blow up are successful, they got to pretty much sign that oath. They pretty much got to play that camera game. You get the McDonald's commercials, you get this commercials, so it kind of goes with the territory because they have them all a certain way. Okay. One of the reasons why they exclude people like Dr. J and the old cats is because they didn't have the commercialization of the game. That's why everybody thinks the NBA started with Bird and Magic and on went to Jordan and upward, right? So there you go. They were micromanaged Negroes, okay? And that's what they did. And so when I say that, you can fill in the blank of who you think, who you're not. Now, I would tell you Kawhi Leonard don't fall into that bag, okay? You know who you can kind of see who smiles a lot, who got some crossover popularity, who fit into a certain demographic, who's on code with what goes down. I ain't even gotta say no names. You can pretty much figure it out. Think about some of the guys you've seen and how they were aligned in what they had to do. And then you remember what they were before they got aligned. I could tell you some names that might surprise you. Patrick Beverly comes to mind. I'm gonna tell you, he be on like he'll talk all that trash on the games and all this smoke, right? And then I see him on ESPN with those glasses on and his hair done, and he's like, "Well, the defense." And he be all articulate. I'm like, "What happened to that dude?" Well, yeah, because I saw him on what was it with First Take, and he was wearing his glasses, all articulate and all well mannered, prim and proper. What do I call the NBA? Negroes be acting. If you ever watch my videos when I did that, I've used that. I said it stands for Negroes be acting. Probably so. I'd say so because I don't find him that deep. I mean, I didn't think he made nothing racist with what he said in that video, but I don't find him that deep. That whole thing when he said talk to Mayor Abbott, I'm like, okay, so you were held back because you didn't take the jab. However, what's that got to do with how you respected Steve Nash as a coach? What's that got to do with how your chemistry was with Durant and Harden? And why did Harden want to get away? And your attitude in Boston, you know, and how you wanted to leave LeBron. So there's a common denominator there. And while you got handles and you're a great talent, your problems has been on the court, really, Kyrie. So, and I do think that how he got the Uncle Drew movie and all that, he had crossover appeal. His shoes sold, he had crossover appeal. You know, he's not going to leave the NBA plantation because they, told him he needs to be fine tuned and well behaved. He's back playing. He's not that kind of cat that I find that's a problem for the NBA. Let's just say that. But yeah, when I said Beverly, yeah, I remember he came on and it's on video. You have to look it up. Type in Pat Beverly on First Take with the shit glasses on and all articulate. And I'm looking at him like, okay. I will tell you this. I don't get them vibe from Russell Westbrook. Not at all. Because he be standing up to people and he has this thing. I don't get that from Durant. I don't get that from him. He gets on my he can be frustrating because he acts like he don't get it that he has to leave these things, but I don't get that from him. I don't. Them two, I don't. There's a few I don't, but a lot of them be acting. And I told you, NBA stands for Negroes be acting. So if you thinking they bucking, they are. He is a buck dancer. He's one of the biggest coon based cats they are because he's loud, he's eagerish, he talks talk, and it's like he's a plant. It's just like a Fat Joe thing when I get from him. He's inside, but then he talks outside, but then he's working both the systems. They put him in there to work with Barkley on the NBA, on the TNT. They put him in there to say things. Okay, Steph, because he go along, get along to an extent. He has crossover appeal. He has moments where he'll talk about stuff. He has moments he doesn't. And one reason why I would say he would be borderline, where I'd say he would lean towards it, because he tolerates Draymond, and he doesn't never say, "Hey, we can't have that on our team." So I do question that about him, and I hate to say it too because he already decent brother. I know he on E40, it's decent brother for the most part, but that how he tolerates Draymond thing, that does rub me the wrong way. If that's one of my main pet peeves with him, on the team is because he's tolerant of Draymond's antics. And I know success can bury certain other things, but it's like, come on, yo. So that's a problem I got with Echo. I wouldn't say it all the way with him, but them Draymond things definitely got me wondering about Steph. He called Phil a racist. Pippen's problem is that he didn't have the success he felt he should have. But I didn't say this again. Now I sound like a James Brown record. I'm gonna say it again. Had you beat had you beat the Lakers in 2000, we wouldn't be having this discussion. History would have you as a top 5 player. Period. You'd be with 7 rings more than likely. Because I think you would have beat the Pacers. You lead your own team. You win against a great Laker team. You beat a Pacer team. You win. People look at you differently. He called Phil a racist. And I don't think it's bucking. I don't think he's bucking. I just think that he just has some idiotic motivation because he needs some money. And he always feels like the poor man on the side who didn't get his just due. So I don't, you know. Oh, yeah. Look, I loved him. And I'm going to tell you like this you can arguably call him the greatest player ever. You can make a case for him. But his shuffling and ha 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 now land magic and showtime is annoying. And this so-called ownership with the Washington football team, ha ha ha, we gonna do things, magic. He get, it's so cliche. You know, love him as a player. Look, and proud of him as a accomplishment that he's alive. All that. But yeah, yeah, yeah. That's why him and Kareem kind of weird eyes. He always grinned and I mean, I understand he was with the game, but he was always gaming, you know, and it gets a bit much with him. Hmm. So that's my knock against Magic. And it's sad too, because I'm a huge man, like as a player. Um, the format now, I miss the 2-3-1-1. They do 2-2-1-1-1, all this crap. The games are all at night. I miss some of the afternoon games. um, and I just think that it should be the 2 best teams, not what the powers that be want. So I think sometimes I'm glad there's been a little bit more going on with Milwaukee winning and with Denver winning. We need to see more of that so it don't look like it's fixed. Basically with the salary cap situation and they overhype so much stuff. But it ain't nothing like it no more. I mean, it don't mean what does it mean? You know, they always make every summer like, oh, it's gonna be the summer of this. Trey Young in the summer, all this. They throw a lot of stuff out there that didn't kind of went over people's heads because people ain't really, how much salary cap you got, how can you maneuver it, how do teams that supposedly over the salary cap and what they're gonna do about it. So, you know, gets people excited, but you win in June. You don't win unless, of course, you catch somebody that can make a difference. Like when Rasheed Wallace went to the Pistons 20 years ago, that made a difference. Okay, Moses Malone to the Sixers. You got to have the right pieces. Everything got to be in place. I think the fact that they downplayed that the pitching was janky too, that the ballparks were built in, that the balls were bouncing. It wasn't just a juiced up. It wasn't just a one trick situation. So there was a lot more work. It was an elaborate scheme. It was an elaborate scheme. All parties were involved. So don't make it out to be just that the hitters were the bad guys or this was the bad guy. Everybody was involved in it. Owners, commissioners, all of it. It's a shame that it has to be a handful of people that get picked as it because there was a lot of people involved with it. Well, I don't really celebrate Thanksgiving because it's a hokey holiday anyway. Um, it's a lynch-based holiday, so it doesn't really have much meaning, and it's been too commercialized, so I don't really have anything with it. NBA pet peeves: if you're the best player and you had the year, you should get it. Um, Case in point, the MVP this year should have been out of Jokic, Joel Embiid, and maybe Shea. Those three. Luca coming in fourth. That's it. That's it. So sometimes they don't get it. You know, they got these new rules about you got to play all this and that. If a guy is doing the thing, if you see a fall off from a team or if you see a come up on the team, you got to acknowledge it to what it is. So, but I don't, the NBA, they should have had it in the East and the West too. If, from my personal opinion, for MVPs, they should have had the Eastern Conference, Western Conference. Just like they have an All Star game that's East and West, so why not? Probably some Hot Wheels or some electric games I had. That's a great question because I know some clothes I like. I had some Yankee gear, which was tight. It had some headband, had some tight Yankee gear. I used to have some tight stuff. Those were probably my favorite. Depends on what age I was. Was electric games to a certain point, and then I got some Yankee gear, headband, some clothes, some nice, cool sweaters I got that were real versatile. Once I got into it, I got into it. At first, I wasn't feeling it, but once I got into it, it worked out. So, so yeah, those were them. That's a great question too, Lamar. Appreciate that. Yeah, I never get asked that one. Back in the day, most of the best gifts though usually is cash though, because you buy your own thing. Can't get offended. So, well, I think I've done this before, but um, back in the day, I like those old hurricane teams. Um, the U was must see. Oklahoma late 70s. Um, want to say what else was I impressed with? Um, Florida State in the '90s was cool. Um, um, SC SC's teams. If you go back to the OJ era and if you go to the Reggie Bush era, I mean, they were great. They were fun to watch. You know, um, Bama had a lot of respect. The Saban thing. Uh, those Georgia runs were good the last few years too. So, um, most of the ones that have been very successful, being all honest, they tend to make the most compelling arguments and stories. Nebraska in the '80s was compelling when Tom Osborne was coaching and everything. So it depends. Barry Switzer with Oklahoma back in the day, Jimmy Johnson Miami's. Certain teams by Don James with the Washington Huskies were cool. Bo Schwender with Michigan. I think Harbaugh's job the last few years has been incredible too, because they didn't lose a lot of games. They were something else. So, so yeah. So that's where I'm at with that. Yeah. Anyway, I guess everybody didn't kind of bounce. I'll give it a couple more minutes and see if anybody's still around. Had a good chat tonight. Some good questions too. Appreciate everybody coming through. It's a lot of stuff we tapped on. It was some good topics. I just got word that Bronny James got removed from the 2024 draft. He's going to push to 2025. He needs a little bit more work done. That's what that tells me. He needs a little bit more work. I figured that because his game ain't quite up to par to be drafted yet. So, not shocked or surprised though. But that's what's up. Anyway, if nobody's coming back through, I'll check one more thing before I'll make a move. Appreciate everybody coming. Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, I'll be on a little while longer since someone came through. Um, all time or new? Because if we're talking all time, John Wooden, Dean Smith, Krzyzewski, um, Jerry Tarkanian, Guy Lewis, Tubby Smith, uh, depends on what, back in the day. Bill Walsh, Landry, Shula, as far as favorite goes. That don't mean that other people don't sit at that table, but those guys come to mind. So yeah, it's not like there's a handful of guys that when you ask me my favorites, and then if I, you know, those three stand out for me always. I got honorable mentions of guys, but those three, Walsh, Shula, Landry, were like titans to me. All due respect to Vince Lombardi, but that was before my time. I respect him now, but those guys were, in respect to Chuck Noll and Belichick and Andy Reid, you know, Parcells, Joe Gibbs. Yeah, yeah. Because I mean, he got 3 rings, 5 Super Bowl appearances, 3 rings. I mean, yeah, he's in there. He's at the table. You can't talk about the greatest coaches ever and don't have him in there. He solidified that this year. If he was the three-peat, then he goes around the table. He goes next to the man. That's how big that would be. 4 rings and a three-peat would put him next to the man because it would be rarefied company. And that's how big it would be to three-peat. Then he's the greatest head coach ever in NFL history. Period. He'd have 5 rings. He'd be one behind Belichick, but to win 4 in a row, he'd be in uncharted territory. And it's hard to do it in any sport. So to do that and be consistent. And NFL coaches, yeah, 4 in a row would. Because I said if he three-peats, he's next to the man. Think about it. He wins another ring, that's 4 rings. So if he's at 4 rings, Chuck Noll, he surpasses him. He's already because his impact was less overall. So he sits at the table now. He wins his 4th ring. He's hand in hand with the Walshes, the Belichick's, Shula situation. He wins 4 in a row. He's by himself at that table because he have 5 rings, and he'll do something that no one has ever done. So yeah, he would be the GOAT as far as NFL coaches ever. Yes, I said it. Wouldn't even be up for discussion then. He wins 4 in a row. Yeah, because no one else is going to do that. There's nobody on the horizon that I see that has that kind of mojo. He has the ultimate competitor at quarterback, got a great tight end, influx of changing parts. Yeah. So he would be in a rare feat. So yeah, I make some bold statements on this channel, but which Philly? You got to specify because they all, when you say Philly, you could be talking about the Eagles, the Phillies, the Sixers. Which Philly? They all three got problems. They all got problems. You want to know about all three? Okay. The coach, he's a schmuck. He's not cut out to really utilize Jalen the right way. And there has been some kind of divide there. You can't go to a Super Bowl with a young team and have them quit on you when they won 10 games. They were 10-1. They look like at worst and then they just the ship started to sink. That's on the coach. He got up there and mocked the 49ers. They quit on him. That's simple as that, you know. And Jalen Hurts is too good to just, you know, there was more going on. So I'm putting that on the coach. That's his faux pas. Tough, tough. Hate all you want. Andy ain't missing them. He ain't missing them. He ain't missing them. Andy's like this. He driving down the street. He can't see him. They got one on their finger. He got three. He can't see him. So let them hate. Let them hate. And they ran Doug Peterson out. So I don't really feel nothing for him. Andy can't see him. Andy be hitting his steering wheel with all them rings and banners. He can't see him. He can't see him. That's how I shut the haters up. If you want to be up there hating on somebody, I said, look, he can't see you. But yeah, what you're proposing, if they did, because he went for Jalen Hurts, because he told you that Wentz was past the fence. Wentz was done, and he was done. And hate all you want on Peterson, all you want. He know a thing or two about quarterbacks. Okay, the guy's track record speaks for itself. He utilized Nick Foles. It worked. It became a divide. Then he went to go get Jalen Hurts because he knew Wentz was bent. Doing good with Trevor Lawrence. Man knows a thing or two about quarterbacks. He wasn't much of one, but he knows a thing or two about them. He knows how to coach them up. Yeah. Yeah. Um, and that was PR because of McNabb. That's what that was about. You got to protect your quarterback. And T.O. was the problem, you know, even though T.O. really wasn't the problem. But at that time, Andy Reid didn't really sway with ego as much as he's come to sway with it. So by the time you get to Kansas City with Tyreek and Kelsey and Mahomes and Kareem Hunt and all the other stuff, he had gotten through a lot in Philly. So now he's more polished and able to withstand some of that stuff that he couldn't deal with then. He's a whiny, pompous white boy, privileged, annoying, off the field, and cried on the side. He should have been reprimanded for what he did to Andy Reid. He know good and well he went across the line. He's got a sense of entitlement, you know. And he's a great player. I mean, there's no questions about it, but that attitude, it's a tyrant. He's trying to cash in on his notoriety, which is cheap because if he's using a woman and you couldn't make it with the sister, so he's got the America's sweetheart with, it's just a lot of acting that goes on. So great player, but annoying though. So I don't really, meathead is washed. Can't do nothing in the postseason. And the thing is, he has allowed himself to be a buck dancer because it happens in white world. He buck dancing for Jerry Jones. He know good and well he can't deliver that man no chip. And he's got talent there. He can't deliver it. See, if Chris Sims had that same energy like he had for Jalen Hurt, he'd say the same thing about Mike McCarthy. How come Mike McCarthy, who had Aaron Rodgers and them, can't flip it in Dallas? 12-5 every year. Borderline NFC East type, and you can't finish. Title can't finish. Where's that energy? Can't beat legit teams either. Where's that energy? Stockpile wins against garbage scrub teams, beating them by 40 points. Where's that energy when you get smashed by Frisco? Have to steal a game against Detroit. Get smashed by Green Bay with a puppet quarterback, and they make your defense, who's supposed to be so superior, look lousy. One for the cameraman, none of y'all would have seen Musgrave being open. So, yeah. So that's my knocks against him. He's overrated, overstated. They don't do nothing next year, his butt will be out of there. But that's what he allowed himself to be. So I can't really find no fault with it. I mean, two best teams are there, they're there. If that's the teams that get showed up, I just said that this year it should have been your Packers and Detroit. That's all I said. Can't find no pet peeves about it. Maybe because they start later, that might be a problem. They could have one early and one in midday. I don't know why they make it all long, long winded and late. But that's about it, though. So, yeah, that's about it. Only problem with that is if don't protect your quarterback, sometimes you take shots. And sometimes with that line, y'all cadence got to be as such. And, because you're basically, in some ways, as great as it was for the Bills or the Rams for the greatest show on turf, you're getting your quarterback gonna get hit. So you got to have all systems go. You have to pretty much be in unison. And it's very hard to keep that flow going. You know, got to have about 3 or 4 plays called in advance. Takes a special talent to pull it off, though. So, yeah. I'm gonna get ready to go in just a little bit because it's been my dinner time. Been on for a couple of hours, and it's been a great night. Definitely touched on a lot of topics, a lot of great subject matter tonight, and there's a lot that was really I liked it. I really liked the angles we went on tonight. Uh, Great pet peeves too. You know. Okay, before I go, offensive lines of all time, probably the Hogs in Washington in the '80s. They set the standards for the big 300 pounders, and then Dallas followed, but that was the standard. That was the standard. I think the 49ers offensive line was underrated back then. But again, you had fullbacks, you had sometimes two tight end sets. It was a different era. It's kind of hard to say, but I think that Washington Hog line and that Cowboys line in the '90s, you gotta win on. That's how it always goes. To be a champion used to be had to win the line. Whoever could win the line was gonna win the game. I don't care how talented you were, what have you. That's one of the reasons why the Bills got beat so much because the lines on the other teams on the NFC was stacked better. So, like I said, it's similar, but it's not the same. I don't think Kansas City's offensive line has necessarily been dominant. They're good, but I wouldn't call them dominant. So I haven't really seen what I call like Mark Smith offensive lines in a while, you know, where I've been blown away by. I've seen better defenses on the line, but offensive lines, you know, but you do need a line to dominate though. So anyway, that's all I'm gonna stay with that. But anyway, let's do this again tomorrow. Looking forward to it. I enjoyed a lot of the questions, enjoyed a lot of the people coming through. Appreciate you. Stay warm, stay safe, stay blessed, stay up. Till next time we catch you. Peace the best. I'm out. I will address that before I go. Okay, right before I go. Um, I didn't know anything about it until you just mentioned it. That's pretty young. I know he had some medical that I can verify, and I know he had a broken heart. He went through a lot of stuff. There's a lot of trauma there with him. It wasn't all fun and games. Um, Pretty big sized man, and he will be missed. He was a you know probably the most important TV wrestler. So I will rest in peace to that guy. Um, he changed the course of TV wrestling. He was the dude. He was that dude before The Rock, before Cena. He was that dude. He was a crossover figure. Probably in the top five. If you had a Mount Rushmore of most important TV wrestlers, he's in that. He's at the top of the food chain because his crossover appeal was amazing. Man, he was in Rocky 3. He was big time. He was a crossover figure before wrestling even took off like that. Think about that, because he was in that movie at that time. So then you fast forward to his impact and eras after that. That's how big Hulk Hogan was. So that's a big loss as far as that go. He said some stuff that I didn't care for though. So some racist undertones for sure. And you have to look that up. But in the ring, he definitely left an impact. That's no doubt. All right, I'm gonna roll now. Appreciate that one. I'm glad you hit me up, Barrington, about that Lamar. Appreciate y'all coming through with that one as before I split. But yeah, that's my thoughts and takes. I might do a separate video about him. Um, you know. All right. Peace. Stay up. One.